Composite number 7 to be moved by Sutton Baldoyle Branch, Dublin North East.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates, the government commitment to job creation is welcomed by our branch, but unfortunately the measures being taken currently are simply not working. The Central Statistic Office figures indicate that in spite of the Finance Act number 2, 2011, the numbers at work are decreasing over the lifetime of the government. Likewise, the numbers out of work are increasing. This is based on the National Household Survey, which the CSO says is the real measure of unemployment. The live register shows, in addition to this, that long-term unemployment is on the rise, that there are more people now claiming benefits who are longer claiming them. In spite of the fact that 670 million, this is also to do with pension funds, the Finance Act provided to take a levy of 670 million, did take it out of defined benefit pension schemes in 2011. It was used to reduce VAT in the hospitality industry, also in the newspaper industry and other industries. And it was also used to develop internment schemes, which there are mixed views on, but I have not really heard that these have added significantly to create jobs. I must say at this stage that I do have to declare an interest. I am a member of a defined benefit pension scheme, but there are a couple of 100,000 people who are in the same boat. The Finance Act 2011 didn't compel any hotel, restaurant or newspaper to transfer the VAT reduction back to the consumer or in any way to create jobs. But what it did do was that it provided by law that the trustees of defined benefit schemes had to take the funds out of the schemes, 80% or more of which were already underfunded. Not alone that, but it provided in law that they could reduce payments to the scheme members, which previously wasn't possible. This hasn't happened yet, but it's a matter of great concern. The trustees, in other words, are being provided for by law to ignore their legal responsibilities towards the pension scheme and its members, and to ignore their fiduciary duties. And there's a question, as I believe, as to the constitutionality of that. The justification for the levy was that it would create jobs, but it hasn't. That it would equalise public service pension levy, but there's no levy in the public service. It's now a pension contribution, the same as defined benefit people do. Pension schemes exist across the public and the private sectors, and they're not simply, it's not a case of public sector versus private sector. Could you conclude, please? It's absolutely necessary, I believe, although I heard the last speaker, Jack O'Connor, say that we can't use the National Pension Reserve Fund, but we can use it to guarantee the banks and bail them out. That should be used to create investment in infrastructure. And it is essential that we persuade our partners in government that the Labour policies on these issues are best. We should discontinue the taking of money out of defined benefit schemes and return the money, in fact. So that there's also a need. Could you conclude, please? There's also a need to end austerity in order to create conditions for growth, and the banks have to be persuaded to lend for business expansion. So there's also a question about state assets. There was a controversy over the motion. I have to ask you. State assets should not be used under any circumstances, the sale of them, to create jobs, and should not be sold, in my opinion. Thank you, delegates. I recommend the proposal to you.
Now, before we move on, efforts are being made to get people out of the building. It's expected that that may take half an hour before it's arranged. So I'd ask you to bear with us, but as any news comes available, it will be given to you. So we'll move on now to the Castleknock branch, Dublin West, seconding Composite number 7. Sorry. Formally seconded. Thank you, John. We move on. Then the Esquire branch, Dublin Midwest, supporting Composite 7. And could we have name and branch? People are neglecting to do that this afternoon.
Thank you, Chair. Conor Riley, Esquire branch. Is Cushmore Áhas Dunvan Shahanu Chunarun Shah Koros Fergar. Delegates, in February 2010, we entered into a coalition government with Fine Gael. We have had successes since then, most notably the maintenance of the basic levels of social welfare and the reversal of the minimum wage. These policies all have the stamp of Labour and government. Where we have struggled, however, is in the area of job creation. The unemployment rate, delegates, in Ireland has stood in or around 14.3% since we took office. It is my opinion that the Jobs Initiative hasn't delivered as we need. Our ministers, delegates, must put job creation as their priority if we are to get Ireland out of our current problems. Our ministers must put job creation as their priority if we are to stay true to the ideals of the Labour Party and of our founder, James Connolly. Connolly founded our party on the belief that they would work on behalf of the most vulnerable in society. In today's society, delegates, the unemployed are among the most vulnerable. If people have a job, they have a chance. We as a party in government have to ensure that we do all we can to give people this chance. And that responsibility, delegates, falls on the shoulders of our ministers in government. If we look at the recent history of coalition governments in this country, the junior parties, such as the Progressive Democrats, boxed far above their weight with regards to policy. We are in a much stronger position than previous junior parties, and we need to use this position to ensure that the workers in this country will find fairer opportunities and better incentives to become part of the labour force. This motion, delegates, calls on Labour ministers to ensure that addressing unemployment and prevention of job losses throughout the economy becomes our priority in government, and I urge you to pass this motion. Gurv Mila Mahagaf.